Good morning. Today we are continuing on with those equations and variables. Today we're doing PO18, the PO, super important, power objective. I can solve two-step equations. So what we've been doing is the one-step. We've had experience with one-step. A lot of times we just look at it and know the answer because we can use that logic. Now it's getting just a little bit more complicated with two steps. We can't just multiply, we can't just divide, we have to do two different steps. So solving an equation with two steps is merely building off the last two objectives, and we're going to combine them together. So there's going to be some adding or subtracting, and then there's going to be some multiplying or dividing. It's at this point that we're moving away from fact families, since there's more than one operation that's going to happen in the equation. And because our equations are more complex, we are not going to use the logic. And we're definitely not going to be trying to work ahead, thinking that, oh, I can teach it to myself, because that's when mistakes start to happen. That's when we get into bad habits. And that's when spring comes and people go, I don't get it. I've been teaching this for a while now. I've learned it for many years. Right? I know what I'm talking about. I do not want to see people writing right now, whether it's a note to a friend or it's trying to write the work ahead. So we're putting away any post-it notes. So we are focusing on our math, because it's starting to get a little more complicated. And I definitely want us to be listening and following the way that I'm setting it up, following my way of organizing, because truly I know what's coming, right? It's coming in the spring, it's coming next year in algebra, it's coming in calculus in high school. I'm trying to give you the skills to make you more successful with math. So I want you to erase this, because this is not what we're doing. So we're going to focus on purely doing opposite operations. And yes, there is a specific way to do it. I want you to set it up this way. We're going to look at 5n plus 7 equals 32. In the equation above, we see there are two operations happening. 7 is being added to the 5 times n. So we have two operations we're doing. We're looking at opposite operations. What is the opposite of addition? Thank you to those of us that were raising their hands. I did hear someone say subtraction. What is the opposite of the multiplication? Mindy? Division. So here's where you need to be careful. When solving for a variable, there is an order that must be followed. Right? You might say, oh, but I can figure it out my way. Yeah, you probably can. But is that going to help you in the spring when we have more complicated equations? No, not at all. And you're going to try to do it your way, and you're going to get lost. So sure, I completely agree there are other ways to solve this, but those other ways will not help you in the future. So I'm expecting you to do it my way, because I know my way is what you need for in the future. Okay? So we also need to follow the opposite of PERMDAS. When we do the order of operations, we know it's parentheses first. Exponents and radicals next, multiplying and dividing next, adding and subtracting last. Now we're doing sad work. So we are going to look to see if there's any subtraction or addition. We do that first. Then we do any division or multiplying, then any exponents or radicals, and at the end, parentheses. So we're gonna do SAGMO. We must work backwards because we are undoing the equation to solve for the variable. So because we're doing opposite operations, we're doing opposite order for the order of operations. I'm going to show you what that means. But the big thing to remember on this objective is that we do SAGMERP. We don't do PERMDAS. It's the same thing where you look at the level. Subtracting and adding are on the same level. We do either of those first. So when you're solving for any variable, you plug your solution into the original equation and make sure it works. So after we've done the math and we figured it out, you still check your work. Take your solution for the variable, put it in for the variable, do the math. Is it a true equation? Does it balance? So we're going to practice what it means to do SAGMERP. And we're going to see what the two-step equation means. So practice a few, including the equation above that 5n plus 7 equals 32. We are going to show our work, and we're going to show that you checked your answer. In order to get credit for the homework, you must follow the directions. And remember, I want you to set it up the way that I showed you. Are there other ways to solve it? Yeah. Those other ways will not help you in the future, so I do not want us getting into bad habits. Okay? So let's look at that first one. 5n plus 7 equals 32. Remembering that we want to do SAGMERP. So I want to look at the opposite operations that need to happen. What's the first thing I'm going to look for in SAGMERP? Claire?
Subtraction and addition.
Yeah, I want to look for adding and subtracting. Remembering I want to do the opposite. So what's the operation that we see in the equation, and what's the opposite that I want to do? Christina? Yeah, we see there's plus 7. So what's my opposite? Subtraction. So I'm going to remember what we did with our adding and subtracting objective. If I added 7, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So I'm going to do it right under that equation. I'm actually writing under the equation, keeping it lined up to stay organized. Some of us might want to use the graph paper up front to help us stay organized. If our numbers get too big and wild and crazy, you can use graph paper to write it out so you can keep your numbers lined up. There's no problem with that. So what am I left with? I know I'm going to have 5n. I didn't do anything with that. What is 7 minus 7? David?
0.
0. Do I need to write plus 0? No, because that doesn't do anything to our equation. So we're going to leave that out. Because 7 plus 7 is 0. It zeroes out, so I can cross it off. That equals what? What is 32 minus 7? 25. Now in SAGMERP, what comes next is dividing or multiplying. So what do I need to do? Eleanor?
Divide from both sides of the equation.
What am I going to divide?
Divide from
I was multiplying 5 times n, so I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to divide by 5. Now, yesterday for that objective, I was writing the division symbol in 5. I like to do the fraction because we found in one of our problems yesterday that it actually turned into a half. And we went, oh, what's 2 divided by 4? What am I doing? If you put that fraction bar, you see when you get a fraction. So I like to just write it over 5 because we know that fraction bar means divide. So what is 5 divided by 5? Claire? 5 5 divided by 5 is not 0. I'll try again.
1.
1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So if I have n, what number do I know is automatically in front of my variable? LJ? No. What number is automatically in front of a variable if there's nothing there? What number do we just know is there, Robbie? 1. Because 1 times any number is going to be that number. Do I have to write it? No. Can I? Yeah. It's not proper math, so I don't write it, right? Because I do the proper math. But we just know that that 1 is there. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I can just call it n. Because 1 times n is still just n. Now I have 25 divided by 5 is what? David?
5.
5. So I did my 2 steps. I did step 1 with my subtracting. I had added, so now I'm subtracting. And then I did step 2 with multiplying going into dividing. So it's the 2-step equation. Now I need to take my answer of 5 and put it back into my equation. Now I'm going to do the regular math. So I'm going to do the order of operations the way it's supposed to be, because I'm not doing opposite operations anymore. So I'm going to multiply first. 5 times 5 is 25. 7 equals 32. 25 plus 7 is 32. 32 equals 32. So I know I did my math right. I checked my answer and it balanced out. So we're going to do our 2 steps of Sadmer, and then we're going to check that answer. So let's look at our next one. 2n plus 17 equals 25. What's my first step? First step, what should I do? Out of 2n plus 17 equals 25. Mala.
See if there's any other solution.
Yes. And is there? So what do I need to do, Amala?
You have to do the opposite of calculation.
I need to subtract. So if I was adding 17, I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. 17 minus 17 is 0. So I bring down what stays the same. I don't need to bring down a 0 because a 0 is not necessary. It's just 0. And then I do the math on this side. What is 25 minus 17? Claire? Close. 25 minus 17, not 7.
8.
8. So when we are doing our math, if we had put 18, like Claire first thought, because she was doing it quick mental math in her head, it happens, right? She put 18, and then if I divided by 2, I would have gotten n equals 9. Then I'm going to put 9 in to check my answer. And then I do, okay, 2 times 9 is 18, plus 17 is 25. And then I would look, oh wait, 18 plus 17 is 35. So it happens. We accidentally add wrong or subtract wrong because we go too fast, right? That happens. That's why we check our work and we go, wait a minute, 35 does not equal 25. I made a mistake. Let me go back and see where I made my mistake. Let's try this again. And that's when you go, oh, 2n equals not 18, but 8. Okay, so those mistakes will always happen to people. It happens to me. And then I look at it and check it and go, whew, I went too fast. Let's go back and fix it up. What's my next step? We did step 1 with subtracting. What do I do next? Hadley? Yeah, multiplying and dividing. So what do I have to do here? Yeah, because I was multiplying by 2, so I know I need to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that gets me n by itself. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now I have n equals 4. I need to check my answer. 2 times 4 plus 17 equals 25. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 17 equals 25. 8 plus 17 is 25, and that truly does equal 25. Now I did my math right. I found that mistake of 18 instead of 8. Now my equation balances out. I think we got a good idea of the multiplying and all of that. Let's look down at a division one. So let's look at n over 4 plus 13 equals 15. Actually, no, let's see that one. N over 4 plus 13 equals 15. What's my first step going to be, Amala? So just tell me what you think the first step I need to write down is. I have plus 13, so I need to subtract 13 from both sides. 13 minus 13 is 0, so I have n over 4 equals 15 minus 13 is 2. What do I do next? What's my second step? What do you think, LJ?
Multiply by 4.
Yeah, that fraction bar means I'm dividing by 4. So I need to multiply each side by 4. What I do at this step is I just know that the 4's cancel out. But to show you what that means, if I multiply by 4, I get 4n divided by 4. How can I simplify 4n divided by 4? What can I divide out of both the numerator and the denominator? Harper? I can divide that 4 out. So I'm dividing that 4 out, and I'm dividing that 4 out, and that's how I'm left with just 4. 4 divided by 4, 4 divided by 4. Right? I simplify it down. So 4 times n over 4 means it's 4n over 4. Simplified down, it's just 1n. What is 2 times 4? It's 8. Now I have to check my work. 8 divided by 4 plus 13 equals 15. 8 divided by 4 is 2 plus 13 equals 15. 2 plus 13 equals 15. It is a true statement. Let's do one more with those divisions. N over 5 minus 20 equals negative 40. What's my first step? Christina. Don't tell me the C is, just tell me what the step should be. What should I do? What should I do? What should I write? Yeah, I have minus 20 here, so I need to add 20 to both sides. Minus 20 is a negative 20. Negative 20 plus 20 gets me to the 0, because I'm going to include that operation with my number, so now it becomes negative 20. So negative 20 plus 20 is 0, so I have n over 5 equals, what's negative 40 plus 20? Kathy? Negative 20. It is super important that we remember to bring down those negative signs, right? Because negative 20 is a very different number than 20. What's my next step? Grant, what should my next step be? Do I divide? I dividing here. Remember, I want to do opposite operations. So if I'm dividing in my equation, what's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So I'm going to multiply that 5 because I want to get n by itself. So I'm going to always look for my variable. What operation is happening to my variable? If it's dividing, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply it because that's going to give me that n by itself. 5 divided by 5 is 1, right? So 5n divided by 5 will get us 1n. So if I multiplied by 5 here, I want to multiply by 5 here. What's negative 20 times 5? Graham? Negative. Did you look at our operation? So you have to be really careful when we're doing this math that we're doing the opposite operation. So if we are dividing, now we're going to multiply. So that's why we write it on both sides, so we remember what operation we're doing. Because it's super easy for us to say, oh, we were dividing on the left, we're going to divide on the right. But that wasn't the opposite operation. If we accidentally put what Graham did when we accidentally divided, when we go back and check our answer, 4/5 times negative 20 equals negative 40, oh no, not times, sorry, minus 20 equals negative 40. Let's see, is 4/5 minus 20 negative 40? Uh-oh. That's when I catch that mistake and say, wait a minute, I got negative 4, I put that in here, but negative 4/5 minus 20 is not going to equal negative 40. I did something wrong. And that's when you can go back and say, oh, that's right, I was supposed to multiply, not divide. So we can catch those mistakes that way. So now, I'm going to put in that negative 100. Negative 100 over 5 minus 20 equals negative 40. Well, what's negative 100 divided by 5? Is negative 20. Negative 20 minus 20 equals negative 40. What is negative 20 minus 20? If I'm at negative 20 and I subtract 20 away from it, I do get negative 40. So that's why it's super important that we actually follow these steps. So that way we don't make those mistakes. We keep track of what operation we are truly doing. And it's super important that we check our work because we've seen it already just working it through as a class, how easy it is to accidentally add or subtract wrong, to accidentally do the wrong operation. Those simple math mistakes happen all the time. That's why I'm being such a stickler and saying you have to do it this way because it helps us stay organized so we don't make those little mistakes or we catch those mistakes when they happen. You're going to finish up these last 4 on this first page. Let's look at our second page, what the directions are. More breakfast. We're doing the same thing. Same thing. You can even write sad murph at the top of your page so you remember we're doing the opposite. So we subtract or add first, the opposite operation. Then we multiply or divide with the opposite operation. And then we check our work. When we have a negative 5 minus n over 3, what is the first thing we're going to do? Let's look at this. Negative 5 minus n over 3 equals negative 1. What do you think our first step should be? What do you think, Eleanor?
Adding to the negative 5.
So when we look at that negative 5, Eleanor has been listening. She goes, negative 5, that's a minus 5. I need to zero it out. So if I'm at minus 5, I need to add 5 to both sides so that turns into a 0. -5 minus 5, right? If you're at -5 on the number line, you want to add 5 to get it to 0. So now, what do I bring down? Eleanor?
N plus 3.
And what's -1 plus 5?
That is
-1 plus 5 is a 4.
Or,
Did I bring everything down that I needed to bring down? Christina? Oh, I took care of -5 plus 5, but look what's left. There's a minus n over 3. So I have to bring down that minus, and it becomes a negative n over 3. What's my next step? Hadley? What do I multiply? So I have a 3 here, but I also have a negative. And I want to get rid of that negative because I want my final answer to be a positive n. So what do I have to multiply by? -3. So I'm going to multiply by -3 because that negative times a negative gives me the positive. Because I want it to be just a positive n at the end. 3 divided by 3 gives me that 1. So I'm going to multiply over here by -3. 4 times -3 is -12. So there's little details in this. We know how to do opposites with adding and subtracting. We know how to do opposites with multiplying and dividing. Putting them together into that 2 steps, there's lots of little details. So I truly want you following the steps in an organized way. Are there any questions on this? On the bottom, you're going to have to write your own 2-step operations. I should see the multiplying or dividing. I should see the adding or subtracting to get your answer. So write it out. Easiest way to do this is write it out with numbers. Write a 2-step equation with a variable value of 5. So I'm going to put my 5 in the equation. I'm going to build an equation around it. So I could say 4 times 5 plus 2 equals 22. Now I need to put a variable in there. I'm going to take my 5 out and put it in n. So when they give you a variable value, make an equation with that value, and then you take that value out and you put a variable in for it. Does that make sense? So you're going to do the bottom 2 on your own. Okay. Remembering, just set up your equation with that value, and then take the value out. Put in your variable. All right, working calmly and quietly. A lot for us to think about. Right? We need to pay attention to details. This is not a racing to be done. This is a, hey, I know tomorrow's a Friday. Tomorrow's a retake day and Khan Academy. So if I don't finish today, I'm not going to rush to be done and just slap down some numbers so Mrs. Gambino will think I did it. I truly want to learn this. Our test is next week. We have an objective on Monday, and then we have review and practice test and real test. Did I get that right? Yeah. Nope, that's this week. No, this is our last objective. I'm sorry. This is the last objective of this unit. So that means we're going to do practice test on Monday. Real Test Tuesday. This is by far the hardest objective of this unit. Do not rush through it today just to be done. Truly learn it. Tomorrow during retake time, if you have no retakes, and I don't think I have any more retakes in this group, I'm not sure off the top of my head, really work on this objective. Okay? Make sure you know it so you're ready for that practice test on Friday, or on Monday. Yes?
Is this due on tomorrow or on?
We will correct it Monday before the practice test.
Got it.
So we correct on Monday, but you can ask questions and get help tomorrow in class. Christina? Good question. I'll have to look and get back to you on that. Okay. All right, if you are watching this video at home, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.